Hi, I'm Nelson, and this is the Sir Nelson IELTS and General English Training. In this video, we are going to focus on the IELTS speaking test. Remember, the IELTS speaking test has three parts: Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. Specifically, in this video, we are going to focus on Part 3 question type 1, which are comparison questions. What are these questions and how do you answer them? At the end of this video, I'm going to give you a number of questions for you to practice. This is one of the most common Part 3 question types. It usually appears very early in Part 3. The first or the second question. The comparing question can be asked in different ways. Time comparison, where you are expected to compare the time, the past and the present. Are houses nowadays the same as houses 30 years ago in your country? You are supposed to compare the two. Can you quickly try to give an answer? Assume they have asked you that. What kind of answer? Later on, I'll give you my own answer and you will compare. Social group comparison. In this part, sometimes you are expected to compare social groups like men, women, the old, the young, the youth, the adults. Do men and women like the same types of books? Do old and young people like the same holidays? Pause the video and you try to give your own answer. We shall see at the end of the video if you gave a good answer. We also have the geographic comparison. Are houses in North China the same as houses in South China? Are houses in your country the same as houses in Europe? Are houses in America the same as houses in Africa? Geographic comparison. Although these questions look quite different, they all require a very similar answer. The important thing to remember is that you do not get marks for the differences that you describe. Some candidates simply list a number of differences. This does not produce a good quality answer. For this question type, you need to use comparative structures. What are the comparative structures? Look at the following answer. The question is, do men and women like the same hobbies? One candidate says, I think men and women like different hobbies. For example, men are fond of many types of sporting activities, such as football and basketball. Also, they prefer things like watching action movies and going to bars. But women like hobbies such as shopping, watching TV, singing, and chatting. As we know, as I have told you in my earlier videos, this is not a very good answer. Why? This answer is simply a list of different hobbies. It is focused on content, not language ability. It does not produce the comparative language that is required for this type of question. Now look at the next answer to the same question. Well, obviously, there are a number of clear differences. However, I guess that the most significant would be that men tend to prefer sporting activities such as football or basketball. Whereas in contrast, women prefer things like shopping for clothes. In addition to this, another possible distinction might be that men usually like watching films, while on the other hand, women are more likely to prefer watching soap operas on TV. This is actually a very beautiful answer because it has linking phrases, conversation fillers, and most importantly, it has comparative language of phrases. Later on in the course, I'm going to show you how to develop this answer. This second answer contains similar content to the first answer, but the content is presented with comparative structures, and that's what is needed in this type of question. The comparative language here is whereas, in contrast, while on the other hand. These two comparative linking structures will increase your score. Now you need to build your own comparative answer. Let's go step by step and you learn how to develop your answer. You need first to begin with a conversation filler or an opening phrase. Let's read after me. Well, obviously. The B is silently. The B is silent. Well, obviously. Well, undoubtedly. Well, clearly. Well, unmistakably. Sure, without a doubt. Unquestionably. You need only one in your answer. Choose one if you are writing. Now say that there are a number of differences. You need to give us at least some kind of a sentence to show that you are going to give a number of differences. These are the ones. You choose one and you add it to your conversation filler or signpost. Now introduce the first difference. What is the difference between men, women, houses here, houses there, and other things? Choose one. Remember, this has the words like guess, suppose, think, would. Those are very important because they are typical of native speakers. They like to speak in degrees. After the word that, you give the first difference. Now use a sentence to describe the first difference. For example, men tend to prefer. Develop this first difference with a simple linking word. For example, especially, particularly, in fact, such as, for example, specifically. Use these words to add some kind of detail to your difference. Now use your first comparative linking structure. First, you choose one side, then you go to the other. Before you go to the other side, let me say you begin with men. After giving the difference, now you go to the side of the women. But to go to the other side, you use one of these structures, 1, 2, 3. Now add your next sentence. For example, women are generally more keen on. Though quite the opposite, women are generally more keen on. Develop the second part of the first difference with a simple linking word. Use these words to add some kind of detail. We have finished the first difference. We need to introduce a second difference. So you pick one of these words, add it to your answer. This word shows that I'm going to add a second difference. Then you need this to introduce the second difference. A second key distinction would be that you are clearly showing us that this is the second. After the word that, then you give the second. After describing the second on one side, you go to the other side. You can use any of these phrases to go to the other side. Then give a sentence to describe the second part of the second difference. You only need to describe two differences. Two differences are enough, but each difference is important to add some kind of details. But remember, the linking phrases or sentences are very important when you're speaking. Tenses for time comparison. If they ask you to compare the time long ago and today, which tense do you use? Sometimes people call these questions changes questions. However, the question, how has X changed in recent years, is actually the same question as, is X nowadays the same as X in the past, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, etc.? The answer is actually the same. Because if you describe the changes, you are simply describing the differences between the past and the present. So, which tense do we use? In your answer, when you describe the past, the easiest tense to use accurately is used to. I used to in the past, but now X used to be much smaller. X always used to be more, and then you add the details. Or the negative, X didn't used to have as many this, you add some details. Now use your own structure to practice the following. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Choose 3 questions and answer them. If you are watching this video on social media, you can drop your answer in the comment section. If you are part of my class, physical classes, make sure you write your answers in your book and you bring it for marking. And most importantly, you practice with your classmates. Practice makes perfect.